Now let's talk about solar. Solar, everybody's talking about renewable energy, alternative to dirty fuel. In 2022, statistics reported that Africa generated about 3% or 9%, beg your pardon, of its energy from renewable sources, and solar capacity in Africa, beg your pardon, has grown to 13%. That's between 2019 and 2020. And now, as demand for energy increases, obviously, people are looking outside the norm, which is where that comes in. But did you know that there are some risks also attached to this adoption of solar energy? Well, I found that out recently, and I thought to share that information with you. And so we have Daniel Schneider. He's a senior risk engineer at Alliance Commercial, joins us to tell us about this. Hi, Daniel. Good afternoon. I mean, don't scare me now. We're looking for clean energy, and so we're turning to solar. And now you're telling us that there are also risks that we have to be scared of.
No, so good afternoon to everyone and your viewers, and thanks for having us on your show. The intention behind it is definitely not to say that we need to run away from this technology at all. It definitely poses a great option for power generation and a greener source of energy. It's just with any new technology that is implemented in the market, we need to fully understand this technology before we implement it at large scale, because there could be unknown risks to these technologies. However, the key thing behind it is that these risks can be mitigated. We just need to ensure the mitigation is proactive and it is done from the onset.
So what advice or tips would you give? Because I see some of the risk, there's natural disaster, there's overloading of roof structures, because obviously those panels stay on the roof, there's fire hazards. What are some of those tips that individuals or even companies should look out for in adopting this alternative energy source?
Thanks, that's a good question. So the key is to understand the application of the PV panels themselves. So the NatCat risks we are seeing on the rise across multiple technologies and loss scenarios. Hail is at the moment one of the largest sort of factors behind losses and one of the largest causes of loss. But also, as you quite correctly point out, there's a large risk of fire as well. Now, this applies to solar farms, as well as it applies to solar PV panels that are applied to buildings. Now, you mentioned basic mitigation measures. These come in many forms. A simple one would be just understanding the application. So if you are applying PV panels to a roof, have you checked there's not combustible insulation inside the building? Have you ensured that the roof can withstand the extra loading of the solar panels? So the risk mitigation can take on many forms, being from fire or from natural catastrophes. But again, it's ensuring that prior to the installation, the research is done and the correct professionals are appointed to ensure that you are protected against these risks and not vulnerable to them.
Yeah, but I mean, in a country like Nigeria, you have a lot of individuals who just want to get an alternative because of the challenge with constant power supply from the national grid. Do they have to worry about that? I just want to get 2 panels, a battery or so in my house, so at least I have lights and just a little bit of air. Do I stand a risk of being exposed to this risk that you talked about?
Yes, that's a very good point. We all know that there's many places where we have a lot of challenges across the world. Power is one of them, as you point out. And there's obviously there's need. So like you said, putting bread on the table and keeping the lights on are obviously important to everyone. But the key here is that in the attempt of solving one of your problems, we don't want anybody to create additional problems. So our advice is simple, is to ensure that you abide by the codes in your country and the national or international codes for installation, to ensure that by solving one problem, you don't create additional ones.
On there, don't create another problem when you're trying to solve one. But thank you so much, Daniel Schroeder, Senior Risk Engineer at Alliance Commercial. Thank you for those tips. We appreciate it.